Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the One Community Local Leaders podcast. And I'm Matt Scarborough from Scarborough Bicycle Accident Law. We're super excited today to have Kevin Bupp with us, who is a local cyclist. I've been following you for a bit now on social media. It's a pleasure to meet you today. I love the charity event you're doing, the 72 hours to Key West, and super excited to learn more about kind of the real estate world that you're involved in, Kevin. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So tell everybody, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit about kind of your cycling background.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's nothing all that exciting, generally speaking. But I mean, like a lot of folks, I got involved in cycling just as a form of exercise more than anything else. I always rode bikes growing up and just always enjoyed being on two wheels and the freedom that it provided, even back when I was a kid. I mean, that was it. Like, that was the thing that gave me the sense of freedom and kind of being on my own, right? And the ride to friends' houses, and back then we could ride miles and miles away from our parents, and
Sure,
it didn't create too much concern. Today the world's a little bit of a different place, but
yeah.
I mean, that was the start of it. And then ultimately, fast forward, when I met my who's now my wife, I met her back in 2008, and she was a big runner. I was not. I wasn't really a cyclist at that point in time. I owned a bike, but I wasn't a cyclist to the sense of what we know today. She got me into running, and then ultimately that we found our way into the triathlon community, and needed a bike to, obviously to compete in the first triathlon, and that was really the start of it. So that was back in 2008, and I learned very quickly, and I refound that love that I had as a kid, riding and just getting out and spending hours just with my own thoughts and on two wheels and seeing the sights from that perspective is really unique, and it just it refueled that love and that fire that I had. And so I've done a lot of long distance rides. I have never done any professional racing or anything like that. It's truly just been a hobby of mine, and really enjoy just the alone time that it gives me. So yeah.
When you're out training alone, do you listen to podcasts? Do you listen to music, or are you kind of your thoughts kind of person?
Yeah, no. So it's a little bit of everything. It depends what type of ride I'm doing.
Right.
If I'm just out by myself, I'll put an audiobook on or a podcast, and I'm not just taking a nice casual pace. I do have a couple groups I ride with that are pretty intense in nature, and so listening to a podcast during one of those rides is it's not probably best suited for me. I got to put some more fast-paced music on to get me rolling.
Right.
But and sometimes I don't listen to anything. Sometimes I just keep the earbuds out and listen to what's going on around me. In fact, if I'm out riding when there's during the day when there's traffic or anything like that, I don't listen to anything. I try to keep my self-awareness and know what's going on around me.
Where's your favorite place to train alone?
Yeah, I ride down along the beaches a lot. It's just it's number one, there's not as much traffic.
That's a good spot.
Yeah, Golf Boulevard. That's probably where I spend most of my miles is riding from my home, and I live in Ozona.
Okay.
Ride down pretty early in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning when there's hardly anyone on the road, and get a good 40-50 mile ride in and get back home by the time everyone's getting up and getting ready for work. So it's peaceful down there, and there's plenty of room for cars to go around, and again, just not a lot of traffic, so it's safe.
I didn't realize you lived in Arizona. I just moved there.
Did you really?
In April, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I live on Pennsylvania.
Okay.
That's
small
great.
world.
It's a small world. Do you enjoy any other cycling disciplines other than road? Or I love mountain biking personally, just because it's me and the trail, and I cannot think about this work, or if I have a complaint to file. That's why I think I started doing mountain biking and why I enjoy it so much today.
Yeah, I would say that if I lived closer to trails, I would absolutely have a mountain bike. And there was a period back when I moved to Florida. There was a 2 or 3 year stint where I lived out in the Brandon, Valrico area, which obviously was very close to a couple, great mountain biking, not mountain biking, but just trail riding locations, Alphi and Boyette, yeah. And so that was, that was well suited for living out there. I could kind of, have both disciplines, road or mountain biking. But I love being able to get on my bike from my garage and go ride. And so it changes the dynamic and the excitement for me when I've got to load it up into a vehicle and actually travel a couple hours. And then on top of that, I've got young kids, so I try to work my exercise and my riding into where it doesn't interfere with or take away from family time. So, hence getting up super early in the morning, getting a good ride, and then getting back home, by 7:30. So, but no, I love the trail. I got into trail running years back before we had our first child, and I used to actually make the trek out to Boyette and Alafaya, and there was a couple trail running groups that I ran with, and that was awesome. I loved every bit of. We'd get there and we would wait in our cars until the sun kind of peaked out,
right? And
then we'd go run. And man, that was there was something unique about just being on the trails. 10, 12 miles would pass by and you wouldn't even realize it because you're always looking down. You're always watching where you're stepping. Very different than when you're running on the road where you're more. I don't know. You're more aware of the mile. At least I am. I'm more aware of the mileage I'm putting in. And sometimes I'm like, God, I got 3 more to go or 4 more to go. Out there, I look down and be like, wow, that's 9 miles past without me even realizing it. So anyway, I love the trails. Absolutely love the trails.
That's cool. Yeah, we've talked earlier about, I follow my partner or girlfriend around out west. So far the past 2 summers, having her do this 100-mile race and seeing that through her eyes, it's a fascinating sport. I can see why people are involved in it.
Yeah, I love what she's doing. That's great. That's to a different level.
Yes.
But no, I respect it. I mean, that's a pretty cool. The ultra endurance or ultra running community is a really, really cool community. So
very good. So tell me how you started with your charity ride, the 72 Hours to Key West. Where did that come from? What's the origin story? Tell me where it's at now. Please.
Sure. So this was our 13th year of the ride. 13th year. We've only done the event 10 times, 2 hurricane cancellations and COVID, the first year of COVID that we had to cancel it. Right. But backing up a little bit, I've always been involved in different charitable endeavors, and one of the ones that we still support today through the bike ride is called the Tiny Hands Foundation, and it was started, many years before I even got involved, and I think it was started back in early 2000s by a really close friend of mine named Rod Cleave. He's based in Sarasota, Florida. I moved to Florida back in 2002, and I met Rod through the real estate world. He's got a real estate background. He's an investor, developer. And getting to know him and what he did and being involved in his business and doing business together, I learned about this charitable initiative that he had created. And for him, it started literally one Thanksgiving. Him and his brothers don't watch football. And they were kind of looking around each other, kind of bored, saying, let's go do some good, right? And so there was a couple families in a neighborhood, and I don't recall the entire story, but they knew of a few families that didn't have this was Thanksgiving, didn't have meals, didn't have, food for the children, things like that. And they went around and basically delivered turkeys and all the fixings, pots, pans, anything that they needed to cook a holiday meal. And so that's how it started. And it built from there. And, over the next couple of years, he built it into a charitable endeavor that was feeding thousands of families on an annual basis, either Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's kind of flip-flopped over the years. But what happened is he had always self-funded it. Okay. He never took in outside donors, just didn't have that type of infrastructure in place. It was him, stroking the checks, buying the supplies, and working with the local Boys and Girls Clubs and the local churches to get, names of families that were in need. Right. And leading up to 2008, again, it was all self-funded. 2008 happened, and just like myself, we went through some very significant financial stress. Sure. To where, he went from, having a lot of money to having nothing. And so it went from feeding, I think in 2007 we fed 3,500 families. And the following year, there wasn't the funds to do so. I think we fed a few hundred families, right? And so it just, the charitable initiative went not to nothing, but there wasn't the funding to do it, nor was there the infrastructure to lean on to bring the outside funds in. And at that point, a lot of other industries were having challenges. I mean, so probably the wrong time to be going out asking for donations, right? It was a challenging time for a lot of folks. So I kind of, and I was in the same position as him, although I wanted to help financially, I was in a very challenged position personally. And so the one thing I did have were my two legs. And so, the following year I said, Rod, gosh, but I want to help. And I don't know how outside of my physical efforts. And the only thing I can think of is putting together, a bike event. And so that same year, I had done another personal endeavor myself, where I rode from Washington D.C. rode from Florida up to Washington D.C.
Oh wow!
Okay. Got some wild hair at my butt. Had never at that point ridden more than 40 or 50 miles.
How long did that take?
And I did it in 11 days.
Okay.
Did by myself with one pair of clothes and some flip flops and literally just one of those weird things. It was just, I wanted a big, hairy, audacious goal, and I did that. And I did that in May of that year. And so at that point, I was in the best shape of my life, and I came back with the same idea to help this charity coming this holiday season. Mm-hmm. And I wanted an extreme event. I wanted something that was not just your normal 50-mile charity ride.
Right.
I wanted something that number one, attracted folks from all across the country, and that were also believing in the same cause. And I looked at a map, and I kind of started looking, what would 3 days, what would be a good distance for 3 days? And I was thinking 100 miles a day, and I just, Fort Myers Beach, I knew the ferry was there, and I measured the Key West. I was like 285 miles. I'm like, well, that's perfect.
Okay.
So I went down July of that year, and with a buddy of mine, we rode that ride. We rode it, and July's the wrong time to do it.
I would think that'd be a bad time.
We started in the parking lot of the ferry.
Right.
Parked our car.
Cool.
And then we basically hopped on the bikes, and the first day we rode all the way to Tavernier, which was, 190 miles or something like that, and then finished the second day into Key West. And that was July of that year. The following October we did the first event. And we've been doing it every year since. And so that was the first year we donated. Such a small amount of money. I think when it was all said and done, we had $300 left over. We cobbled together a minivan for support. It was a hacked together event. I'd never produced an event like that before in my life.
Big event.
The following year we had 30 or 40 riders, and then I've capped it every year since at 75. And we do have fundraising minimums and things like that. But every year since, basically starting the third year, we've on average donated anywhere from 50 to this year we had a record about $75,000 that we donated.
Wow.
And so that's a little bit of the backstory, and it's just been a great event. It brings people from all across the country every year. We get people from the Northeast out all the way. This year we had got a couple from Washington State. We've had folks from out of the country come in and do it, and so it's just a really fun endeavor for two really good causes. The Tiny Hands is one of them, and then there's another initiative out of, they're based in Tampa, and they've got location in Tampa, St. Pete called starting right now, which basically helps the youth homelessness problem here in the Tampa Bay area. So that's a little bit of backstory.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Logistically, how do you get everyone down there? First of all.
So we start. Everyone's obviously got to get to the start. We organize hotels and things like that, and then we've got I've got the same group of volunteers that, for the most part, the same folks that have helped me the entire time. And I met a lot of these folks. I started a running group many years back called Running for Brews. Mm-hmm. It was a local group that we would meet once a week at different locations at a craft brewery and run, and then drink beer afterwards. And we started multiple locations across the Tampa Bay area. And I met a lot of who are still volunteers today for our bike ride. And so we've got 8 or 10 volunteers every year that drive support vehicles. We have a big 30-foot enclosed trailer that we roll with as well. And ultimately that brings all the bikes back. Mm-hmm. A lot of the riders come back on a big bus that we provide. Some of them stay in Key West for an extra couple days, and have a vacation out of it. But that's it. Just a great batch of volunteers that are just true to the cause and love doing it, and they love what it's all about. And it makes it a lot easier for me to put this on every year. I've got these wonderful individuals with huge hearts that, again, they're there for the right reason, and they know what to do each and every year. So it makes it such a fun and just seamless event all through and through. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I hope to join you this year. How do people find out?
I hope you do as well. I hope you do as well.
How do people find out about
Yeah, I mean, 72hoursthekeywest.com is the website. But I mean, generally speaking, we do a lot of marketing on Facebook. But I'll tell you that half the riders every year, about the following year, we always get at least about 40 or 50% that come and ride it again. Some have done it 4 or 5 times.
Sure.
They tell a lot of their friends. So a lot of it's word of mouth. I mean, we do a little bit of advertising, but most of it's word of mouth. And so, I mean, what I found is that those that come and have, they're in the mindset and they believe the causes that we're helping.
Right.
And so I'd rather, typically birds of a feather flock together, right? And so those individuals, the people that they associate with, the people that that they spend their most time with or surround themselves with, are the same type of people as themselves. And so most of the folks that come are a result of that. It's more going deep into the riders that we've had over the last decade plus, and their friends and their riding groups, learning about it through their experience. And so we maybe get a dozen or so that come from some of the ads that we put out on Facebook or Instagram, but most of it is word of mouth.
Very good. Let's switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So I know you're so busy with this charity and, being a husband and a father, but what's your day job?
Yeah, well, I always like to joke and say that I never had a real job.
Okay.
No, I got involved in real estate at a young age.
Okay.
When I was 19, I got introduced to it. And at that point in my life, I was going to community college, attending bar in the evening, having fun, not really clear on exactly what the future was going to hold, but just having fun while I was, getting a little bit of an education.
Okay.
And was very grateful and blessed to have met a gentleman by the name of David from my hometown, from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's a capital, but it's a small town. And him be dating my girlfriend's mother at the time. That's how I met him.
Right.
He was a local real estate investor, and he owned a bunch of single family and small multifamily rentals. And I just I spent a lot of time around them, just being over at her mom's house, and got to know him, became friends with him, and saw what he was doing, and it was very intriguing. One thing that I noticed is that his lifestyle happened to be very different than the lifestyle I had growing up, and we didn't grow up without. So I mean, I had a dual working household. Both my parents worked. We had a family vacation a year. So I mean, it's all relative. I didn't know what we had or didn't have, right? I mean,
Sure.
We had meals on the table every day, and 2 cars, and again, took a family vacation every year, and it was great.
And where did you grow up?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But what I saw with David was just even a more heightened lifestyle to a certain degree. And at that age, you kind of want the cool cars, and the material items are maybe a little more important to you then, or at least they were to me then.
Sure.
Than maybe what they are today. And I was intrigued by what he was doing, and basically I made an offer to him to let me come in between classes.
That's awesome.
And tending bar, and even most of my bartending shifts were Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. So during the week I was pretty flexible outside of taking a couple classes every day, and so I went and worked for him for free. And basically became his whatever he needed. I mean, he was a solopreneur, kind of was doing it by himself. He had contractors and realtors he worked with, but I mean, for the most part, he was the one-man show, and so I helped him, and that got me into the business. That got me to understand what it was he was doing, how he talked to people, how he communicated, how he dealt with tenants and contractors, and all the other aspects of running a real estate investment business. And at the age of 20, I ended up buying my first investment property, and didn't reinvent the wheel. Kind of followed his lead and what he had done. And fast forward to today. Over the years, I've bought many different types of real estate. But for the last decade, my company, Sunrise Capital Investors, focuses primarily in manufactured housing. So we own manufactured housing communities in a number of different states, in the Southeast and the Northeast, and some of the Midwest. And also parking garages and parking lots. And so we're an investment company, more of a boutique private investment firm, and that's what I do. But I love it, have fun doing it, and I don't consider it a job. I really get excited about waking up every day, and we've got an awesome team that supports us, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I saw my dad do it with manufactured housing.
That's right. I forgot. You said that he was in that industry. So.
Yeah, in Frostproof, and the name of it
Yeah.
was Lily Lake, and he was an insurance guy, agent in the Polk County area. And one day in the 80s, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to develop a golf course community." We were like, "What? Are you crazy?" And he sure enough did it. And,
That's awesome.
Had a nine-hole golf course. And it's funny you talk about lifestyle, because when he was in his 40s, he decided, "Oh, I want to move away from Polk County, a house on the water down in the Boca Grande area, and then a home in the mountains." And so he did 6 months. I was like, "Oh, that's probably better than being a lawyer." But that freedom lifestyle is it's a thing I think that everyone's attracted to.
Yeah.
And real estate's just fun.
It is fun. You gotta do what you enjoy doing. I think there is some truth to the old adage of like, find what it is that you really enjoy and build a business around it. And I don't know if that holds true all the time, but I know it does in this sense. I actually really enjoy what it is we do. We help a lot of folks along the way. We do a lot of the communities that we purchase have different challenges associated with them, whether it be the current ownership just hasn't invested capital over a long period of time. Maybe they haven't done road improvements. It's not the community maybe that it was 30 years ago when it was built. And so we go in and breathe fresh life into it. We repave roads, we put brand new homes, take out old, rundown, vacant homes and put brand new homes and put new infrastructure, water and sewer lines, new signage, playgrounds for kids if it's an all-age community, renovate swimming pools, create clubhouses, just create more of a community for these residents. So it's like that's rewarding as well, taking something that's somewhat blighted,
yes,
and turning into something that people are proud to live in.
And it's a win for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So following you now on social media for a few months, I see that you're a very proud father. And what, you have 2 boys?
2 boys, 7 and 10, Jackson and Julian.
And what do you enjoy doing with them?
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit before we hopped on here, and I simply put, I enjoy spending time with them and my wife. But it's we were talking about just kind of living vicariously a little bit through our kids. There's just things that I get to do with them that I remember doing with my father growing up. And fishing. Riding dirt bikes, boating. I did a lot of wakeboarding growing up. That was the thing. The new thing that didn't exist when we were kids was wake surfing.
Yeah.
And so I got my boys into wake surfing, wakeboarding a couple of years ago. And so we spent a lot of time on lakes. We spent a lot of time in the ocean. Just spending time together, doing fun things. We ski. We go skiing a couple times a year. And again, just watching the excitement in their eyes when I introduced them. So this past weekend, I introduced them to riding dirt bikes. We had never done before. I bought a couple, a 4-wheeler and a dirt bike, and taught them how to ride it. And watching the excitement through their eyes, and then watching them ride these things around for 3-4 hours, not wanting until they ran out of gas. Basically, I don't know. Just that's it's a very joyful thing for me. So.
That's wonderful. I think that's a great lesson for everybody. The more quality time you can spend with your kid when they're, in grade school, high school, whatever, it'll come back to you when they're adults. You always get to spend that time with them.
One of the things I learned from I had 2 primary mentors, at least in the real estate world, David being one of them, and another one being a good friend that I met when I moved here to Florida. They were both 25 years or so older than I, so they had kind of already gone through that life cycle of their life, and they spent so much time. They both had the same regrets. I mean, it was like a mirrored image. They'd spent so much time and dedication building their business, and they neglected in a very big way not just their kids, but also their spouse. Both of them had gone through two divorces. Both of them, while they might have rekindled the relationship at a later age with their children, they both have strong relationships today with their kids. They miss like the most important years of their life, and like it's something that they live with. And I've watched the kind of the sorrow in their eyes when they talk about it. And this is way before I even had kids. And I just remember just kind of feeling what they felt to a certain degree, and not knowing what that feeling really meant until I actually had kids. And so I've always just made like, I never want to have that regret. I don't want to be lying on my deathbed having whatever regrets I might have, hopefully none, but I don't want that to be one of them, right? So just trying to, again, spend as much quality time with them as possible, and just, at the end of the day, the only thing we can really take with us is the experiences that we created, so, and the memories, and the money doesn't really matter after we're gone, but the memories and the time that we spend together, like that's what becomes important to everybody, and that's important to me today, is creating those memories. So yeah.
Good. Do you have any athletic events, or your wife have any athletic events on the horizon for 2024? It sounds like you're busy enough.
Yeah, no. So she's a huge runner. She's, we used to do a lot of events together. We do, we'd always travel and do half marathons in different, cool locations. Sure. It became a little bit more of a challenge with kids. And I think she's running. She typically always runs Gasparilla every year.
Great event.
And she'll normally that, and then she'll pick another. I think she might be doing the Best Damn race, which is I think it's still in Safety Harbor.
Right.
So she'll do those two events, and then I normally once a year I got a couple buddies that I actually met the first year that we did the Key West bike ride. Me and those two guys, typically every year, kind of. One of us, I forget, it's not my year this year, but we kind of choose a multi-day event. Sometimes we create our own. Right. Sometimes we pick an organized event and go out and ride for a couple days somewhere, for a cause. Last year, or 2 years ago was so it's not my decision. 2 years ago, we rode got a buddy of ours that we paid to drive for a couple days, and started in Savannah, downtown, and rode 3 days to Asheville. So we'll do like just one-off, like kind of create our own path.
Sure.
And ride over a couple of days. So nothing planned outside of, or at this point in time, at least for me, but something will come on my calendar at some point in time. So yeah.
Well, most everyone that is on the podcast that talk about their leadership qualities, and just from getting to know you a little bit today, I think that you see an idea like real estate or like charitable ride, and you go for it. Do you think that's one of your qualities, or what qualities do you think that you bring to the table as a leader in your world?
It's a good question. And my business partner and I, we're very opposite in nature, which is what creates the magic. And he always makes the joke, and we just had our full company Lisa leadership meeting last week, and he made it a point, and he said on many occasions that Kevin, being the trailblazer, Kevin likes to create all the messes, like he likes to just throw a bunch of stuff out there, and I'm the one behind, organizing the pieces and putting the pieces in place.
He's the process guy.
That's it. He's the integrator. He's the one that integrates the ideas and refines them, is the best way to put it. So, an idea is nothing without execution, good execution. So, I like to think that I've got good ideas. And definitely have execution to a certain degree, but really rely upon whether it be my wife or a business partner to really help put the pieces together and refine the idea and the vision. And also, it's very hard to do it alone. And so I do believe that's one of my skill sets, but again, rely heavily upon other folks on the team and my business partner to make it happen.
Yeah, very good. How do people find you on social media? What's your website?
Yeah, so the best place where I'd probably track me down, you can get links to all my, all the social links there. It's kevinbupp.com, just simply put. And, I spend a lot of time putting content on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. I have a podcast, and all that can be found at kevinbupp.com.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's
a lot of fun. Hope to ride with you this summer,
make it happen soon.
Next year.
We're going to make it happen soon. I've been promising to come join you guys on your Friday ride, so that will happen very soon.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.